CIS office, kind of like with FEMA, and we go on, we get an account, we can do it online on our own, and then it's reported back to the city, so the city knows it's done.
Well, the baby, she's I think
And
she's
I'm
like
gonna make it the next work session.
her overall.
Possibly not gonna make it. I'm gonna
know if they had it.
I don't remember that either.
kids get, well, it's supposed to be, but I'm also
I
going to.
don't remember my parents ever saying
When we
anything
get into
like
the
that.
meeting, you'll see where I'm going with this, but I think this needs to go to a work session. I have a lot to say about it, and we're not gonna get very far tonight.
So when Michelle asked me about it, I said, oh, yeah,
I understand that
so Michelle asked me about it, I said, well, go ahead and send it, we bring it, we end up having a lot of conflict. And I will just recommend it. Normally, it's been like that.
My middle child got pregnant.
But I did say to Michelle tonight, and if the council has not, the council said,
They did the best they could.
We all try to do the best we could, push it out, right? That's the whole goal.
yeah.
All these big sunshines.
But I think that's what the CIS learning.
Turn that into something positive, you're winning.
The mandatory reporting system. Oh, yeah, look, it came right after. The next two emails here, it talks about it. And that's what it is, yeah.
So I think it's
You're shooting for it, you're being part of
That's what I learned at the mayor's
problem, right? You don't need necessarily need a fancy title, you just contribute to society and help society.
my wife many
You have to have some, the other stuff too.
Sure, it takes all kinds of people.
But there's 6 other people. She said, yeah.
Some younger ones?
I do. I have two adopted girls.
I did ask them constituents how they feel
7 and
about
9.
Were they same family?
Same mom.
She said she was really
Do.
They're a handful.
I can only imagine.
I don't think I'd have the strength.
I don't have the energy
It takes us,
when I had my first two.
that's what I struggle with, but it takes a very special person to be able to do that. When we talked about, I never wanted a third, but I told her, I was like, I'd rather adopt, and maybe we can adopt an aged kid that doesn't normally get adopted, everybody wants younger ones, so maybe we, I'd be willing to look at adopting one of those kids that are in that age group that nobody ever wants to adopt.
Too young to be off on their own.
Yeah,
It's hard.
'cause that's a lot. You hear more stories, and you hear success stories as well.
Yeah.
And then,
You never know, and
well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
So,
the little small foundations that they have, that's good or bad.
We were foster parents.
so,
We pay people for city services, they should be present for them, that's how I feel about it. However, I will dissect the
Yeah,
policy.
my friend raised 2 kids and then she became a foster parent. Adopted.
A lot of people do that for me. It does take a special person.
So she's my age, she's exactly my age within a month.
Checks on
She's
that.
got high school kids.
Yeah, no, it costs us money.
Yeah, I would assume so, yeah.
Safe routes to school.
I had a friend in high school whose mom was doing that. Unfortunately, I love her. She is a kind person, but it was more she needed the money to survive. So it was get as many as she could get in the house.
Well, that's what I said, that the system is very flawed in that.
Wonderful, that's very kind.
There should be more money for jails, mental health, and child services. Pretty simple.
Mental health issues too.
That's what I said, mental health, the jails, the children. If we can fix the kids earlier, we wouldn't have some issues. Get a chance to figure out the issues. Or what the,
You won't
it's not even
remember.
it's not necessarily their fault. Generally, it's the parents' fault.
No, it's never
Or
their fault.
generally, it's the men.
Yeah,
Generally, it's the men coming and going, or not coming at all. And
it's the parents.
the kids don't know anything. They only know what they know. And
In
so,
the 1990s, they cut back mental health funding and closed 2 state mental hospitals.
Look at that one they did in Junction City.
Oh, yeah.
Spent 120 million and stuff for 4 years and they closed it right back down. That's stupid.
And it's a great big old.
Yeah, there's 120 beds, like, that's a lot of beds.
They opened a facility in the early 90s in Portland. I was talking to someone today, and I asked her if she would remember that, and she did. I toured it just before the meeting. It was for urgent, basically urgent mental health issues. Well, to get long-term facility that works really well.
And it takes time.
No, they'd be there maybe up to a month or so, something like, if I remember.
I'm aware, it causes some havoc. I know.
Yeah. He's doing a good job, but sometimes it hears his little things.
Let me see you girls.
You got them fishing?
Yeah, that was over at Garden Lake Store.
Yeah, that looks like kind of like
Cute kids.
a cutthroat or something.
Yeah,
They're cute.
they are crazy kids.
They are ready.
No, one letter to try to get it. Then you have to tell him.
I told Floyd.
Good evening and welcome to the Creswell City Council meeting, September 11, 2023. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we begin tonight with a public forum, which is a 30-minute portion maximum, speakers for 3 minutes apiece, and the council doesn't engage in discussion or make decisions, but we can direct the city manager to follow up on comments. We have one speaker signed up tonight, that is Lori Eichelberger. Please come to the podium.
Okay. Just make sure, oh, it is on, okay. All right, yeah, I wanted to show up tonight. I know lots of other times when I show up, I'm just beating the drum of complaint. But tonight, I want to actually say that in my walks and going down the trails and checking out the areas where the campfire was that I talked about last council meeting, those areas have been kept really clean. I wanted to tell Cliff and his crew and anybody else who was instrumental in keeping that up, that we really, really, really appreciate it. And then Cliff and I ran into each other on the trail tonight after I sent out the email regarding, because people come to me and send me pictures of stuff because they think I'm going to stand up here and talk. So, it's your duty. It's my duty somehow, even though I'm no longer in charge of the HOA, by the way. Our new president is here tonight. That's Dave Stainsby over there. Anyway, so I did get some pictures from a gal who walks through that same area, and she showed there were like a progression of pictures. The first picture she sent me of this, what appeared to be an abandoned boat with nothing in it. And then as kind of a couple days go by, material was added to it, like a blanket, like a hoodie, like some food, like some water, like an oar and a fishing pole and so on. So it looks as though it's being used by somebody, possibly to be camping alongside the bank. You know, can't say we haven't seen them, but it's suspicious because it's in the same area and it's anchored there. The question is, where did it come from? Did it come across the lake? Did someone take it from someone who lived over on the other side? We don't know. So anyway, Cliff and I already discussed that, so he's on it. And then the other thing I wanted to just kind of touch back on was that because we did talk about the possibility of doing trail cameras, and so I'm hoping to hear more about that. And also possibly cleaning out those trails a little bit more. And if the crew is too busy to do it, whether they'd entertain having volunteers come in, whether that's a thing that is possible or whether that's a no-go. So that's mostly what I wanted to talk about tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, and you will be hearing more about both of those subjects later in the meeting.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we move on to the mayor's report, and I wanted to begin, as you all are aware, today is September 11th, 22nd anniversary of September 11, 2001, the I brought in the front page of the Register Guard today, which had an interesting article that talked about many of the impacts of that event 22 years later still on the lives of so many people. So I thought it would be appropriate tonight that we would just begin our meeting with just a moment of silence. It's not a normal thing of our meetings, but I think in light of what today is and what happened many years ago and the impact it continues to still have on our nation and really around the world, thought that'd be appropriate. So this will just be a very brief moment of silence for you to remember and to pray. You do that, please. Thank you. So, Mayor's report. First of all, we come to Safe Routes to School presentation, and I want to thank Councilor Clark and Curtis Thomas, who've been working very hard on this from the city's perspective, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Clark, who's going to lead out, along with Curtis, in this presentation.
Is this on? Is it on? Yeah, okay.
Well, hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Shelley Clark. As you know, I'm a city councilor. I got off a plane about a half an hour ago. I've been traveling, and so just in case, this is why I'm masked up, because I don't want to share anything that I may have picked up along my travels. And so that's what's going on here tonight. And then, would you like to introduce yourself? Yep.
So I'm the planner here. My name is Curtis Thomas. And yeah, we had arranged for our Safe Routes to School consultant to do a presentation tonight, but I believe there was a last minute communication, so we're going to do our best to present the project and answer any questions that may exist right now. And most important, present that it is open for public comment right now. And I believe it will be open for about another month. I want to say the first week of October is when the comment period closes, but today we'll present a quick summary of some of the findings that will lead up to the list of recommendations for our the next step of Safe Routes to School. And so this step right now was the project identification portion, and the next phase of Safe Routes to School funding is the infrastructure funding. So now that we've identified projects, then we'll ask for the larger pot of money to actually build some sidewalks, crossings, lighting, fixtures, things that we looked at.
I'll also share, I think, as you know, but just to refresh some memories, is this has actually been a project that's been a little while in the making. We've been talking about it for at least the last 6 months, I think. When I joined the Safe Routes to School team, I think that was last December. So we're almost a year later after having collected feedback from the community, after having opportunities for online feedback. We did the walk audit just last April, where we were able to see kind of what is going on, what are the speeds, what is happening with traffic. And again, follow up on even some of those things that people may have commented on online with, this seems to be a problem. We were able to go out and actually look and see what was happening there. And so after our walk audit, after everything that we were able to do in terms of collecting community feedback, we were able to put it together into an executive summary. And when I say we, really our planning group did the majority of the work to be able to go ahead and put that into that executive summary. And so you'll notice as you scroll through or as you read through that executive summary, there are certainly some recommendations that we would still like to get more feedback on as to what are the priorities of our community and what are the priorities in terms of transportation. There are some, it's identified within that executive report of who is responsible for taking the lead on all of the different projects that are recommended. One of the projects that I would just turn the council's attention to is something that we have talked about in previous council meetings, which is there is a question about a crosswalk on 8th and A which a previous council took action on. And so in order for us to be able, to, if we wanted to move forward with that, that would be something that would take council attention or take council action as to if we wanted to be able to put that crosswalk back, for example. I will, yeah.
Yeah, and so we can flip to the, I guess I'll flip to it. So we had a technical advisory group made up of us two and some of the members from our school district. So the superintendents, the bus, what's her name? She leads the bus driver group. We had some community members come out, and then we had a fair amount of public participation kind of lead into our project selection. And so even though we're asking for more feedback on the final plan, like we have been continuously asking for feedback and received some good information. And so I think the exciting slide is the one with all the projects identified. And so there's kind of like a couple of main streets, Oregon Avenue and all the crossings there, kept on coming up as important. A Street, that's the road right in front of the elementary school. The crossings there can be a little dangerous, especially as it's kind of a recently widened road. We had some reports of speeding. 5th and Harvey, and then 6th Street, so going north-south is another kind of critical road to cross. South 10th Street, a lot of children live off of the southern neighborhoods down there. And I'll point out one mistake, number 22. I think the sidewalks are supposed to be on F Street, not on South Front Street, but other than that, you can kind of see that there's a collection of crosswalks improvements identified throughout the city.
And I think at this point in time, one of the most, I guess, the next step in the process would be for the full report to be taken to the Oregon Department of Transportation to be able to receive or to apply for funding, to be able to pay for some of the projects that are listed here. And so at this point, I think the best way you can continue to participate is, number one, if there's something for council potentially to take action on, that might be something that we might want to pick up. And then number two, the last page in your the report is a thing that says, how do I participate? And so if you have support for the projects, if you have questions about the project, this would be a fantastic place for you or for any member of our community to be able to share more feedback on that. So again, I'll use an example. We've talked a lot about South 10th Street, for example, and the need for sidewalks. That is also something that was identified within that executive report as something that was needed. And so if you also have support for sidewalks for South 10th Street, for example, that would be a fantastic way for you to get involved, provide commentary so that we can present a more compelling argument to the Oregon Department of Transportation in order for dollars to be able to come into Creswell.
I'll just add that ODOT likes to pick projects that people will support. They're not going to pick a contentious project, so if we can drum up a lot of support for things, I think it makes them more willing to fund our projects.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So tonight was just a presentation, and counselors, you're going to continue to keep us updated, Shelley, from your committee, and then counselors, ways we can all chime in. And then the one particular project, now you said that was West A and 8th Street. On here it says it's West A and 9th Street. We're talking number 5. Mm-hmm. That is not the one we're talking about, number 5, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the number is. The one in particular for council where action would be required is that there was, at one point there was a crosswalk between 8th and A. So essentially the main street that connects kind of the middle school to the elementary school, that used to be a crosswalk, and as you look at the sidewalk, there's actually cutouts where the crosswalk used to be. A previous council, and we would need to get more information about this, but a previous council made a decision to remove that crosswalk. And so essentially for us to be able to put that back into our inventory and remove the crosswalk that is identified right now on 9th Street, essentially to shift that over, that would be something that we would need to take action on.
Yes, Councilor Holt.
First of all, thank you for all of this. This is great work. I'm curious, in your opinion,
Sorry.
Okay. I'm curious, in your opinion, is that switch, would that better the situation?
So my opinion, and this is as I stood there on walk audit day, right, kind of putting eyes on, is I think humans want to have the shortest route possible between where they are at and where they're going. And so we have I saw a number of kids who were crossing the street in an unmarked, it's not a crosswalk.
Where it used to be.
Where it used to be,
Okay.
right? Because that is kind of the pattern. There was also a number of people who knew that we were paying attention, and so behaviors change, right, when that happens. And so what we would see is some kids would walk down to 9th Street and then cross. There is a crosswalk on 10th Street, which is, a block away, which doesn't even feel like a full block when you're walking it. And so the crosswalk itself on 8th Street, he said, I think there were originally some concerns about safety.
It was because of they told us it was because of the parking was getting backed up, or the people coming to pick their kids up was kind of overflowing into it, but that's no longer the case with some redesign, as I recall.
Yeah. And so again.
So it made sense at the time.
Yeah. From my humble perspective, just putting eyes on kind of that moment of time when we did the walk audit, I think that would increase safety.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any other council questions for Curtis or Councilor Clark? Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, the second item on the mayor's report has to do with notice of committee vacancies, which you should have all got in your packet. And I read this over, and I want to make a comment about the process that we use. So this process was changed several years ago. And the new process, and I don't know if this is actually a policy that was adopted by the council or just a process change. So Michelle, you're going to have to help me look into that, and possibly Grace as well. The process used to be that when your term expired, you could reapply for that, but the position was open, so anybody could reapply. And then in January, per our charter, the mayor would make all the appointments and the council would approve. The process got changed to where there's now a timeline here. A letter goes out, and if you already hold a position, you can reapply by the deadline here. And then if you do reapply, you automatically are appointed come January. My concern with that is potentially people who have positions who want to stay in them can stay in them forever, and those positions are never opened up for members of the community who might want to apply. So a year ago I brought this up just in private conversation with Manager Amberg and with Council President Proctor, and I said, well, I don't really like this change that's been made, but it was kind of too late to do anything last year. So this year I'm going to put this on the work session for September next month, and in the meantime we'll look into it and see if the council actually adopted a policy or if it just became a process shift, and we'll have a discussion about it. Does that make sense? Okay, very good.
I agree with you.
So in the meantime, this is just information for you to have about positions that are expiring end of the year. Okay, we move to number 3, which is correspondence. Is there any councilor comment about correspondence that we received? All right, if not, then we will move on to the consent calendar. All items in the consent calendar are considered routine unless there is something that a councilor wishes to pull for correction. Are there any things that need to be pulled from the consent calendar for correction? If not, then I'm entertaining a motion to accept the correct calendar, to accept the consent calendar as presented. Counselor Clark.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Counselor Holt seconds the motion. Any further council discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We move on to the administrative report. Manager Amber.
Thank you, Mayor. The first report is the bills. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you might have on the bills that were paid.
I'm trying to find it again, but I am not finding it right off the bat here. Something, I think it was RAIN, R-A, yes, here it is. What is that?
RAIN is an economic development program that we belong to, and so they do a lot of work with entrepreneurs in our community and help and assist small business.
Okay.
On
Councilor Clark.
the second page of the bills, I noticed that there was a payment of $129,444 to Sierra Santa Fe, and I was just interested in learning a little bit more about that.
That's a Cliff question.
Excuse me, that's the company that did the chip seal on Oregon Avenue.
So I want to point something out that has to do with me, just so you all know. On the, like the fifth page in, my name is there, $327.55. So that is reimbursement for the Oregon Mayors Association Conference, which was in Hood River this year. And that's something that's available to all the counselors if you attend, like the League of Oregon Cities, or if you attend a training. That's gasoline and expense reimbursement for my meals that were not covered by the conference. So just so you know, and that's available for you if you want to attend the conference. Let me know, let Michelle know, and then once you got approval, you go to it and turn in your expenses. Okay? All right, back to you, Manager Amber.
Oh, I have more.
Oh,
Sorry.
Counselor Holt.
I'm curious about these payments. They're very small. I mean, they're pretty minute actually, but made out to property management companies. Can you tell me more about that?
Property management companies?
Checks written to Trio and Cottage Property Management?
It's on the last page of the report.
And David Patterson also I'm curious about. I'm curious what these seem kind of.
Oh, these are very small bills for overpayment of water bills. So we're reimbursing them. Maybe they had a renter in for a certain amount of time and then,
Okay.
so they paid more than they needed to. And so that's refunds for them.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, then the next report is the Lane County Sheriff's Calls for Service Reports, and Sergeant Speldrich is here to answer any questions you might have on them.
Good evening, everyone. It was a pretty busy month for us and some excitement, like one of my deputies had to wrangle an emu that was at the airport. That was pretty fun. Yeah, it turns out he's afraid of big birds, which I am too. But you'll notice with our calls for service, it's pretty consistent with what the trend's been this year so far. And if you look at last year's numbers, they're pretty comparable. So I don't have much concern with that. We didn't have any Measure 11 crimes this month, which is awesome, because those are our big cases. And we didn't issue any speeding citations. I did sit in some of our spots that where people were having speed problems, and I have noticed cars are slowing way down. I don't know if that's just by chance or if that's because we have been issuing more citations. People probably recognize my truck now, which used to blend in really well and now it doesn't quite so well. So we did have a string of stolen vehicles that was somewhat publicized on social media. There was a weekend where there was a group of people that stole several cars. All those vehicles have been recovered, and the suspects have been identified, and we're working on catching up with the ringleader right now. So that's a good thing.
So there will be accountability.
Yes. Yes, we're headed down the right track for that. So that's a good thing. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
The usual question, there have been some changes in our homeless population. It sounds like some have found homes, some of them,
Yeah, so I reported at last council meeting that we were able to get somebody placed in an adult foster home, which is awesome. He had been homeless in Creswell for, well, as long as I've worked for the sheriff's office. And then more than that, as far as I know, so probably 15 years at least. He's been placed in an adult foster home, and then unfortunately, the person I reported on last time, maybe having a permanent home lined up, that fell through. So we're trying to explore some other options with that. Two of our longtime homeless residents in Creswell are now in the Eugene area, dealing with some medical issues with one of them. So there's, I would say, half a dozen still in Creswell that are, I would say, regularly homeless. That number, there's a possibility of that number increasing in the next couple months because there's a house where there's several people living they're about to be evicted, and they were homeless before they lived in that house. So that there's a possibility that will increase.
Okay, other questions for Sergeant Spellbridge? Councillor Holt? Councillor Clark?
I just wanted to follow up on the, I guess there was some concern by members of our community around kind of unhoused individuals and crime increasing. And so we had just talked about some car theft. Is there a connection between our unhoused individuals or our unhoused population and the car theft, or does it seem to be unconnected?
No, it's completely unconnected.
Great.
Okay, I think that's about it for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next report is the city attorney report. The next report.
Can I ask a question about the city? Oh, sorry.
Councillor Holt.
Well, she started to move on, so I interrupted.
So let me just jump in here. We've had a month off, but as we're getting back, I just want to encourage all of us, our good council decorum, not to just jump in, and one councillor at a time, and please raise your hand, and I will call upon you. Councillor Holt.
Thank you. She moved on faster than I could think. So, I just want to know how our attorney, like, do we pay them yearly and then also pay them billable hours? I guess I don't understand why we keep seeing billable hours.
We see billable hours only for the time that we use the attorney.
So we don't pay them outside of those billable hours? Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
No.
Okay.
And so I think another clarification, correct me if I'm mistaken, is the reason we get this every month is because the council specifically asked a year or two ago to have monthly reports from the attorney on their work in the billable hours.
Sure.
Prior to that time, we didn't have this in the report. Is that correct? So Councilor Castillo.
Yes, it was my recollection, because other than the interaction that we had with Ross, say at training, that we didn't know what was going on, what he was doing. So that's how these came about.
I appreciate all that information. I was just asking because I just didn't understand, like, I felt like I thought maybe that we were paying some sort of like yearly service fee and then paying billable hours on top of it. I was just looking for clarification around that. So
No, there's no retainer or anything.
okay, thank you.
Good question.
Okay.
Okay, the next is the code enforcement report. The next one is the building permit recap. And then finally, there's a,
It's all right.
Hold on
It's
a
all right.
second. Do
okay.
you have a question, Councilor Holt?
Yeah, I actually do. On the building permit stuff, I was just curious, I saw a bunch of work going on again behind that Dairy Mart, and I was curious if he's come and gotten permitted for doing things back there. I mean, not Dairy Mart, Dairy Queen.
Dr. Bain.
Oh, Dr. Bain, that's kind of a separate issue. That's not necessarily a building permit issue. That's a wetlands and floodplain issue.
Oh, okay.
And Curtis has been working with him on that. And we've also, Curtis has done a lot of research with the Department of State Lands to try and make sure that whatever moves forward is according to what it should be.
Oh, awesome, thank you. I saw some work going on, so I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, it sometimes surprises us and then we have to go address it.
Okay.
And then following that is a memo from me on the concerns that were raised regarding the Garden Lake homeless situation.
Councilor Clark?
Yeah, I think that this is a fantastic memo, fantastic steps forward. I was just wondering if we have any update on their installation and how it's going.
I've talked with Sergeant Speltrich about the installation, and we're not going to be really talking about that because the best way for them to do their work is to be kind of unknown, where they're at and what they're doing. So he is in charge of that, and he will be moving them around to places that he feels are probably the best to watch for activity. I think it's important to know that while this was brought up regarding Garden Lake Park, the wonderful thing about these cameras is they can be used around town as well. So once we, have Garden Lake Park under control, we may be able to move them around for additional surveillance.
So I wanted to just say a word of appreciation, Ms. Chell, for jumping on this so quickly after our discussion a month ago, and Sergeant Speldridge, and I also want to thank Councilor Smith, because I know you brought it up at the council meeting last month, and you raised this as a question and had some information, and then you followed up and did some research and worked with Sergeant Speldridge on a bunch of ideas, and that all got communicated with Michelle, and in a month, here we are. So thank you, Manager Amberg, and thank you, Sergeant Speldridge, and thank you, Councilor Smith. Good work.
That concludes the administrative reports.
All right, thank you, Manager Amberg. So we move on to the council action item. First item is the appointment of a voting delegate and alternate for the League of Oregon Cities annual membership meeting. Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Each year, the League of Oregon Cities holds an annual conference, and part of that annual conference is their business meeting for membership. And at that meeting, they have voting. And so they send out a letter to us and ask us to designate who would be our voting member and who will be the alternate for that voting opportunity. And so far, no one apparently is going to the conference, so I can report back to them that we don't have anybody who's going to be voting.
Okay, Councilor Osborne.
Where is the conference going to be held?
Eugene?
I think I can go to Eugene.
Okay,
When is it being held, though?
The conference is October 12th through the 14th. I think we've missed the early bird registration, though. I don't know, Grace is the one that...
I could probably go if needed.
So if you would like to attend, you need to talk to Grace, and Grace will register you.
Okay.
Councilor Holt.
Do we have any insight onto what days people will be voting on things? So that maybe somebody could be a delegate if the final vote was going to be on, say, Friday night or Saturday, like that kind of stuff.
The annual membership meeting is held on Saturday, October 14th during the day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They usually do it in the morning.
I guess my
Pretty early,
point
like
being is
8
like,
a.m.
I know for myself, I couldn't go the 12th and 13th, but I could be available the 14th if it was important to us to have a delegate for voting. So if it's not really important, I don't see the point in spending the money, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay.
It's voting on the board of directors. And who did this last year for us? Let you,
It was Counselor Clark.
so you can tell us better than anyone else what you did, what you
Okay.
voted on.
Sure. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what all we voted on last year. I think that there was some voting on some initiatives from the League of Oregon City, just wanting to get some feedback on essentially, is this the right direction for the League of Oregon Cities to be moving into, as well as voting on some board of directors positions as well. It wasn't a particularly labor-intensive vote, and so I found it easy to be able to participate.
So we need to appoint a delegate tonight because Manager Emmer, you need to let them know who our delegate is, right?
A delegate and an alternate.
Okay, so, yes.
I was just going to ask the question is, do you need to be a paid member or attendee of the League of Oregon Cities Conference in order to, okay.
Yeah, they won't let you in. The interesting thing that happens on October 14th, that'll be simultaneous with this is, if it matters to anyone, is the lunar eclipse. The annular eclipse will probably be taking place at the same time. So if you want to see that, you probably don't want to be...
I actually have people coming over for that.
Yeah, you probably don't want to be stuck in a building voting. And also, it might be difficult to find parking in Eugene during that time because Eugene will be in the path.
Okay, so do we have a council member who wants to be our delegate? If not, we just let the LOC know that we don't have a delegate.
You told me to talk to her, so I'll talk to her.
So then we need to let Manager Emmer know tonight.
I will be there.
All right. So do we need to actually vote on that, or can we just have a council consensus that Councilor Osborne will be our delegate?
You need to vote on it
We need
because
to vote on it.
the league needs the official council representatives.
All right, I'm entertaining a motion. The floor is open for a nomination for our LOC representative. Councilor Clark.
I nominate Councilor Osborne.
Do we have a second? Councilor Holt seconds the motion. Any further nominations? All right, council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Councilor Osborne. You'll be our delegate.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for stepping up.
I wanted to give other people the opportunity if somebody else wanted to. So I volunteered.
We appreciate you being willing to represent us. All right, item 6B, which is a resolution appropriating expenditures within the water fund. Mr. Piper.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. The resolution before you, like you said, amends the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget and appropriates expenditures within the water fund. This is due to a grant that's carried over into this fiscal year. The project was supposed to be completed in June of 2023. The vendor or the internet service provider that's putting the fiber in over on the east side was able to work with one of the other utilities to get it to the east side. So we do have fiber over there, and it's on its way to the water treatment plant. I understand there's one more utility provider to make that last hop over to the plant. So again, this will just amend the budget for both. It'll appropriate more expenditures. We also have the grant funds to carry over to cover it. So nothing comes out of the operating contingency to make the budget whole.
All right, questions for Mr. Piper? If not, then I'm entertaining a motion on item 6B. Councilor Scheck.
Thank you again for being prepared, Director Piper. I move that the City Council approve Resolution 2023-21, a resolution appropriating expenditures within the water fund.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Councilor Castillo seconds the motion. Any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right, item 6C, adopting a work-from-home policy. Manager Amber.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a policy that the city has been having a practice, but we never had a policy. And so I thought that we should have a policy, especially since we could foresee that we have 2 employees who are interested in working from home intermittently while they're off on maternity leave. So I drafted something up and I sent it to our city attorney, and you have that in front of you tonight for your consideration and comment.
So can you first and read a little bit on the practice? You said we currently have a practice but not a policy. What is our current practice?
Well, it started with COVID. We provided everyone with laptops, and then we allowed people to work from home. So we've been allowing that off and on. We've been allowing hybrid where people work the morning at home and then come into work, and just some flexibility for our staff that they really do appreciate. And so now it's time to put it into writing.
Okay. All right, so council members, when Manager Amber approached me about this, in the last month, my first response was that normally this would be something we take to a work session and we work on. But as we currently have a member of our staff on maternity leave, Manager Amber asked, could we look at it tonight? And I said, sure, we can look at it tonight, but if the council wants more time to weigh in on it and, chew it on and beat it up and talk about it and all the kind of stuff we do in a work session, then the council may prefer to table it for tonight and just move it to the September work session. So that is an option. And I'm just going to open up the floor to the council now for discussion for where you'd like to go on this. Did you finish your report though? Okay. So, Councilor Holt.
I have a laundry list of things about this, and I'm going to shorten it by saying that I do believe that this should go to the work session. I am planning to be out of state for our next work session, and so I would like to make a motion that we table this tonight and put it into our October work session.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to, is it table tonight or to postpone until date certain? And you're asking that date certain to be the October work session?
To be the October work session, yes.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to postpone this item until the October work session. Is there a second? Let me ask, is there a second? Okay, if there's no second, then the motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, so again, the floor is open, council, for discussion. Councilor Smith.
Well, can we back up just one? I had a question. I had a question before we voted on that. If we were to postpone that motion.
Well, the motion has died for lack of a second.
But that doesn't prevent you from making another one, Counselor, so
Yes.
go ahead and ask your question.
So if it was postponed, would it prohibit you from allowing her to work from home if we did make a decision tonight, Manager Amber?
Not necessarily, no, but I would be hesitant because I think it's under consideration right now by the city council, and I would want to do it in accordance with city council's direction.
Okay. I definitely don't want to prohibit a mom trying to work from home, even though, she's trying to get time with her baby, but I do agree that I think it should go to work session.
Okay. Councilor Shuck.
Counselor Holt, can you just give a couple examples of things that you would want to discuss in the work session? There's several things in here that I'm really happy about.
Absolutely.
Like confidentiality of, of the city's, work. But is there some points you could share that would help us understand why we may want to discuss further?
Well, first of all, I believe that work from home should never be designed as childcare. And I think that our constituents, they pay tax dollars to fund city operations. And I think for them, we should be 100% attentive to that. I have signed my own work from home policies, and all of them stipulate that this is not a replacement for childcare. And so I would like to see some language in regards to that in here. There's a bunch of stuff in here that I think just needs to be more defined. It's too open-ended, as we see fit. I think that there's too much of that going on in here. I do not support full-time work from home from city services at all. I would be on board with a hybrid type of work schedule. I would also like to know how many employees we have working for us and how many employees would be afforded this opportunity versus how many would not. That comes right down to equity. And let's see. I'm not sure how I feel about giving a benefit of being able to stay home and work and then also telling them, hey, we'll pay your internet. I'm not sure how I feel about that benefit. I did not vote in the benefit that we as counselors have been receiving, and I would have voted no on that. So I believe that we should have language in our work from home policy that requires a dedicated workspace in the home, not a shared workspace. And then I have a bunch of notes about paragraphs in here that I think should be more clearly defined. And I'm happy to go through them in detail if you would like, or...
Manager Amber.
I appreciate it. I know that you do work from home, and I really respect the experience that you have and would like to have your comments reflected in the policy.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. I had asked for the October work session because I am going to Florida next week, and if the counselors would be in agreement to do it in our September work session, I could log in from there if needed. It's not my ideal. I haven't had time off in a while, but I would do it.
Okay. Councilor Smith.
I'm conflicted. I will also be out of state at the work session. I will also be out of state in Texas in October as well, but I'd still like to, if I could, I'd still like to go through the work session, and if I have anything, email everyone and let you know my opinions on what's going on. So I'd like to, I guess, make a motion, if possible. I'd make a motion that we postpone this until October work session, and then I will try and at least at minimum email about the work session and all the questions that I have concerning this as well.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to postpone to the October work session. Correct, Councilor Smith?
Yes, correct.
Okay, first I want to see is there a second?
I'll second
motion.
that.
I have a second from Councilor Holt. Okay, Manager Amber.
Thank you. We can postpone it further. I think this is an important topic, and I care that we get it right. This could have implications, in an emergency, in a disaster, or another pandemic, and I think it's important that we get it right and that everybody have input. There isn't really a rush. She just had her baby, and I think what she mostly wants to do is keep up with, what's going on. I don't think she's going to be hurt by not being able to work from home at this point. She might want to check in at staff meetings and things like that, so we may want to think about how that works with her time off request. But we can work around it. We've done it before. And I think it's important that we get this right.
Councilor Holt?
I appreciate that. I'm 100% in agreement, and I do believe this is important enough to get right the first time. So, thank you.
Councilor Clark?
I guess one of the questions that I have is, and this may be for Manager Amberg, and so you had talked about that there was a practice that was in place beforehand and just without a policy. And so I guess my question is if we postpone, does that change the current practice or anything that you may have articulated to your employees?
I don't think so. This is not this is not an issue people are beating at the door to have resolved. It came up because we do have one person who's going to be going on maternity leave that I think this is going to be important to. I think the other was, gee, it would be nice if kind of situation. And like I said, we may be able to accommodate her attendance from time to time at staff meetings so that she can stay on top of what's going on in the city. She's a very good employee, and I think that's all she was really looking for.
Okay. Councilor Clark, you still have the floor.
Thank you so much. I'm just a good hand raiser, I guess. I guess one of the things that I wanted to share in terms of just my overall perspective of the policy that is in front of us already is that I'm exceptionally supportive of this policy and of this work. I think again the pieces that I believe have been articulated in terms of the benefits and what that might mean for anyone who might be able to benefit from that. I think. Again, I'm supportive of it. I took a good long while and really read over the proposed policy as it stands. I just had one question about it, and that was in line with the commentary or the question I think that was proposed by Ross, which is about out of state and time zones, things like that. I thought that was an excellent question. I think that you're an excellent supervisor and you lead your staff well, and so I have trust in you and in the policy that is proposed. I think we might have larger questions about work from home and how does that sit with us. But I think what was put out there, I'm largely in support of.
Thank you. Thank you very much. To answer the question about working out of state and time zones, it's unlikely that we would hire an employee that wasn't a citizen of Oregon and within commuting distance to the city of Creswell. So those are we're not looking for out-of-state employees to replace the labor market that we have locally. And maybe that needs to be spelled out.
It's exactly what I'm sorry.
Councilor Holt.
Exactly what I was going to say was that's why I have notes. I just think that there's a lot of stuff in here that should just be defined more. And that's one of them. And also we need to make it clear that if you are getting hired here, that you can't just move to Texas and expect to keep your job. That kind of stuff. So thank you.
Those are really good suggestions and things that we wouldn't have caught. So I appreciate that.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second to postpone this until the October work session. Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We will put this on the October work session. So, Manager Amber, would you like councilors to email you their thoughts about the policy prior to that time, or would you rather wait until the October work session and then have everybody come with their comments?
I can work with either one. If people want to get me their comments ahead of time so they can be in the packet and be considered by the rest of the city council, I'd be happy to do that, or we can work on it together in real time at the work session.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so we move to the back page, and you see all the meetings. I just want to mention that the next work session will be a longer one. And part of that is because we have put off this year our active shooter training. Because we had such long work sessions early in the year. We put that off. So we put that on for September. But we do have several other items in September. So my best guess is 3 hours. Woo. I want to let you know in advance.
Okay.
So, and Councilor Holt, you will be gone.
I was just gonna ask you, is that required?
At the active shooter training? No.
Okay,
You don't have to do that virtually.
okay.
We gone as well.
I can give you some notes.
Okay.
Barricade the door, hide behind Nick.
Councilor Smith will be gone as well at that meeting. So Michelle, do you have any thoughts on how they can receive the training since they won't be here in person?
No, because it's physical training and it's kind of a team effort
Yeah.
and all kinds of things, but, I mean, we'll take good care of you if we can.
So a question then I guess I would raise is, I think that all the rest of the council had received this training last year. Am I correct?
Actually, you're right.
So
We just had it last year.
would you recommend that we have it for the 5 of us who've already had it? Or are we better off postponing again until the entire council? Because we haven't had the training with Councilor Smith and Holt.
It's probably a good.
It's up to the city council.
So council, what's your feeling? What's your feelings on that? Councilor Osborne first?
I think we should delay it so they can be here too.
Councilor Shuck?
I agree.
Well, I hate to delay again, but I think that because, as you said, it's a team thing.
It is.
And so 2 of our team members who haven't had the training aren't going to be here. So let's put it down for the November work session, knowing that Councilor Castillo and I meet with Manager Amber every couple of weeks to review schedules and make sure that that November work session will work. But let's put it down for that, and then we will confirm it at a later time, okay? So that means the next work session will be shorter.
When would the November work session be?
Monday after Thanksgiving.
Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Okay, and with that, thank you. We are adjourned.
I might actually be in Boston.
In Boston, you're
Yeah.
going to take another trip?
No, it's not a trip, it's work.
Well, here's the
I mean,
question.
it
When
is
do you
a
go
trip.
on work? Do you figure out how to have fun?
No, we don't get time. They literally fly us in